I'm Janet Jennings with the University of Illinois Extension, and I work with a 4-H program in Boone, DeKalb, and Ogle counties. We're on Module 7, which is our brooder setup. We have our incubator all ready, and our chicks are getting ready to hatch. And now we need to get our temporary home ready for our chicks as well. So there are a variety of ways to make your brooder, and our brooder is just going to be, like I said, that temporary home until they actually go to the farm. Some of the things that you could do, I have two different options that I use for brooders. I have a plastic tub that I have converted into a temporary brooder. We cut out the lid and put a little wire rack in there so there's a little more air movement in there, and then some other reasons we'll talk about but for heat lamp purposes. Another one is a metal brooder. This would be like a cage you could get at any of the farm stores that you could use for rabbits or whatever else. What's different about this one is it actually has a tray for the waste to fall on, and the chicks are going to walk on a wire rack versus, in this case, we're going to have some wood shavings and a flatter surface. So the option up to you as to how you want to do it. I also, if you don't want to do either one of those, what you can use is a big cardboard box and kind of convert it to what's going to work best for your home or your classroom situation. But in my world, these two work out the best for me. This one's a little nicer for when our weather is a little cooler because it kind of keeps the heat in the incubator a little more, where this one, if you have a little warmer weather, this might be more ideal so that there's a little more air ventilation and our chicks aren't getting too hot. But nonetheless, what we need to do is we need to make sure we have some other elements happening inside our brooder. What that includes is also having a lamp of some sort. You could get a heat lamp bulb, but in our case, like a 60-watt light bulb is kind of ideal. And an incandescent light bulb is what you want. You don't want a halogen or one of those LED energy savers, because what we actually want to do is we want to produce some heat. And those light bulbs will not produce the heat we want for our chicks. What we can do is we can kind of let our chicks tell us what their temperatures are. No, they're not going to talk to us, but their body language will tell us whether they're too hot or too cold. So in this case, on both of my brooders, I could actually set the heat lamp right on top of my wire rack, making sure I'm away from my plastic parts. But if my chicks are all huddled underneath the lamp, that tells me that they're a little too cold. And maybe I either need to increase the wattage in my light bulb, or if I have my heat lamp up too far, I need to lower it so that they can get a little warmer. If my chicks are staying way far away from the lamp, they're at the other end of the brooder, that's my sign that they are too hot. They don't want to be around any other chicks. They aren't laying on top of each other. So perhaps I need to raise my heat lamp so that they're not getting too much heat. So you're going to kind of let your chicks tell you what they're feeling by their body language. So some of the other things you're going to need in your brooder are going to be your water and food source materials. So there are different kinds of waters and feeders that you can get. There are either metal ones like this, or there are plastic ones too that you can use. The ones with the little round circles are going to be the ones for your feed, and then the ones more with the tray on the bottom are for your water. And like I said, you can use either one of those. If you don't have the ability to get those, you can make do with other bowls or containers that you have that are a little lower on the edge. Either way, when we talk about our water, with both sources, what you're going to do is fill up the containers. In this case, I'm putting my water in here. I'm going to screw on my top, and then we're gently going to flip it over. And this is a gravity feed kind of water and feeder, so it's just going to slowly fill itself. But what I'm going to make sure that I do too with our water source is I'm going to make sure that I add some beads or some marbles to the bottom of the base. And the reason for that is it's going to help raise the water level for the ease of our chickens when they're drinking out of the container. We also want to make sure that our feed and water containers are clean at all times. So in my case right now with our situation, I do not have a lot of marbles in my house, but I do have some glass beads. So I am going to go ahead and put these glass beads into our water source, so that will help to bring up that water level to help our chickens as they go to drink out of the container. And you can kind of decide what works best. Now the other downfall with our water is we always need to make sure that the water is clean. So depending on what kind of brooder you use, you may need to be careful about the wood shavings and making sure that it's clear from the wood shavings, because the chickens will get those shavings into our container. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure we get chick feed starter. I do not have the big bag. Typically when I go to a classroom, I just give the teachers enough to get them by for a while. But this is a feed designed specifically for baby chicks. It's got 18% protein, is what our chicks need to make sure that they have a good, healthy start. And they're going to be on this for quite a while, up to 17 to 18 weeks, to make sure that they're getting the start that they need. So we're going to put our feed in one of our mason jars again. And again, we'll just fill it up and have it ready to go and make sure that it's ready for our chicks. I'm not going to do that at this very moment. The other thing we want to do for this particular brooder is I mentioned earlier about doing wood shavings. And for ease of cleanup, I also may put some newspaper on the bottom. So I'm going to put some newspaper down. So that helps with a little more of a gripping for our baby chicks. And then just some wood shavings. It doesn't matter whether it's the coarser or finer wood shavings. We're just going to put that throughout our brooder. This will help them to stay nice and warm and dry it off as they're in the brooder. Now, I should make note too that before we ever take them out of the incubator, one of the things we want to make sure is that our baby chicks are cute, they are dry, and they are fluffy. Because we don't want to put them from a incubator where they're nice and toasty, if they're wet and their feathers are matted. We want to make sure that they're nice and dry in the incubator before we actually put them in the brooder. So we want to make sure that transition's nice and smooth for them and that they are in a nice warm environment and ready for the brooder. So we're going to hold our fingers, keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best as our chicks are getting ready to hatch.